Hello, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While, a show in which I chat with really cool people about interesting topics to spark, inspire, and motivate personal and professional change. And today's topic is the bright way to organize. This conversation is worth your while if you're overwhelmed with your house and you don't know where to start, but you do know that you need a system and not a hack because let's face it, if hacks worked, you wouldn't be overwhelmed with your house. And you instinctively know that you need to create a clean slate so that you can focus on the next big thing, whether that's back to school, holiday readiness, maybe a remodel, or you're moving, or you just have to childproof your house, whatever that may be. So today, we're going to cover a couple of things. We're going to start with how clutter and overwhelm actually reaches into many other areas of your life. It's kind of insidious, right? And then we're going to talk about why what you've actually tried hasn't actually worked. And then we'll leave you with some things you can do right now that will actually make a difference way beyond any hack that you've ever tried. And I would like to just start with a few intros. I'm Linda Bucher. I'm an authentic, heart centered master coach, a mindset mentor, a transformational speaker, a show host, an author, and an MBA because I refuse to choose, so I'm just doing it all. And my gift is lighting the way for those who are excited about giving their gifts to the world. So I love helping smart, passionate leaders to discover your path, to balance your life, and to align your energy and gifts so that you can make your mark on the world. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Aly Luccari of Bright Organizing Solutions. And Aly's purpose is to help smart, busy people to live a more peaceful life through the act of organizing. So, hi, Aly. Thank you for being with me today here on Conversations Worth Your While.
Hi, Linda. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. Chatting
Yes,
with you is always fun.
yeah, it really is. And I'm super excited because I have experienced your magic as an organizer. And like, I can't say enough awesome things about your gifts and talents.
Oh, thank you.
So tell me, can you just tell our audience a little bit more about what you do and who you serve?
As you said, I work with busy people. And the exciting thing about preparing for the next big thing is you don't have to know what the next big thing is. You can just like be ready for it. And by clearing our space and having clarity in our minds as well as our homes, we're ready for anything. And hopefully, the next big thing is something super awesome and amazing. But sometimes life throws challenges at us that we have to deal with. And when we're organized and we have our systems that work in place, then we can handle those stressful situations with so much more ease and grace.
Mm, beautiful, beautiful. Um, I love being organized, but I don't love to organize. Unlike you, who loves to organize. So I know we're going to touch upon that today because we've got a lot of really cool things to talk about. So once again, we're creating this beautiful content for audience members who are overwhelmed with your house and you just don't know where to start. And sometimes right then and there, that's where the paralysis is. Like you look around, you're like, it's too big. I don't even know where to start. And second of all, we mentioned that you know you need a system and not a hack. You're listening to this, you're watching this video or listening to this because you've already looked at all the hacks and you've tried them and they haven't actually worked, which is why you're still overwhelmed with your house, which is why you're listening to this.
Right.
And then Aly, you beautifully just touched upon the fact that a clean slate. I know, like before I even start cooking dinner, I have to make sure my kitchen is all clean. I can't cook around the clutter. I can't, it just feels like I'm just creating more mess. So I really like to have a clean slate. And I love that you brought up, you don't know what life's going to throw you. And when it throws you something big, that's not when you're going to have the time to be able to focus or the capacity to be able to do that decluttering and organizing. So to have it organized and then have it stay organized, which is where the system comes in. I know we're going to talk about that towards the end. But to actually be organized, it just takes such a weight off, and that's where that peace comes in. So
Right.
it's such a beautiful thing. I'm so excited for you and me to get this out into the world today. So
Yes.
we are going to start with how clutter and overwhelm reaches have long tentacles? I'm going to let you
Right.
start. When you work with your clients, how do you see this? That how does this manifest in their homes and in their lives?
Well, it's interesting because not only does clutter have tentacles, but it's also a magnet. It's a magnet for more clutter, and clutter attracts clutter, which is scary. But the super good news is clarity attracts clarity as well. So when we start clearing that space, your eye then has a place to rest, and you want to continue that. It's like a great start in the right direction. You know you're headed in the right direction when you see those clear spaces, and those clear spaces grow. Um, the impact that it has, and when we look at things and we have to decide, I like to pick on closets just to be easy. If your closet is crammed full of stuff and you're looking at all your shirts and you're flipping through them and you're going, no, not that one, no, 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 those are all little decisions that you just made. And we want to make as few decisions as possible, because the fewer decisions we make, the better quality decision we make. So I know if a client's standing in front of a closet and they've made 20 decisions before they've even decided on what they're going to wear, I didn't do my job. And we want the quick decision. Ideally, you go in, oh, that one, and you can make that quick decision and move on with the other things that you have to do in your life. And fewer decisions, better quality decisions, and that's really how I define organization, is when we can stream down, narrow down the
Right.
decisions we make.
Yeah, it's a good way to lighten the load for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because this clutter and overwhelm is bigger. It's like a weight where it's on our shoulders. Every time you walk by a clutter space or open a closet, we're like, oh, I gotta have to get to this. I'm gonna have to get to this. I'm gonna have to get to this. So it's there, it's in front. And it's so much better when you have something behind you than in front of you, especially when
Right.
you know you have other things that maybe feel like a higher priority to you. So now because then you're beating yourself up. Am I ever going to get to this? Or am I just saying I'm going to get to this, right? Or do I really think so? Like, I probably know the truth. But then the other thing is, in my experience as a master coach, um, clutter happens in our minds. We have emotional clutter. We have the soul shrapnel of our experiences. And it and when we are uncertain and cluttered up here, we tend to be uncertain and cluttered in our spaces. It's the magnet. It happens this way too. And in my experience, what's really fascinating is it doesn't really matter where you start. When you start in the depths um, of your closets, and you are organizing from there, and you feel really good about what you're doing, you're lightening your load. And what happens is it makes you naturally want to lighten the load emotionally and mentally. And if you're working, on yourself and trying to get rid of what doesn't serve you, you feel naturally lighter, and then you naturally want to declutter your space. So it's really a very beautiful thing that is happening all this time.
They go hand in hand, and it's funny. It's not only does clutter attract clutter. Well, no, I want to talk about what you said when you see your clutter and you beat yourself up. Some people do that. A lot of people don't see it, and they spend that energy like creating a blind spot,
Mm,
and that takes energy too, that people don't acknowledge. You're shutting that out. You're like, oh, I can't see you, you can't see me. But in reality, you do see the clutter, and it is affecting you, whether you see it on a daily basis or not.
right.
And
You
by
feel it.
eliminating it, um, whether you see it or not, it's still floating around in your head. If you know your basement's a mess, then you're like living on top of that mess. And that's not a good mental space to be in.
Right.
when
Yeah.
when you can clear out your basements and your attics, and well, anywhere, then you
Yeah.
just free up mental energy, and that weight definitely lifts. And it's
Yes.
a beautiful process that blessed enough to be a part of, and it's a lot of fun to be a witness to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we're feeling that overwhelm, we can't be patient with other people, with our important relationships.
Mhm.
Um, we're always focused on what needs to be done, and it just feels very heavy. So it's really a big, um, it really is a big, giant um, overwhelm that
Thank you.
happens, that is all in
Right,
front of us constantly.
right.
So,
And what's interesting is, I can look at if so my boyfriend likes everything completely clear. I'm okay with baby piles because that's my system. He
right.
looks at my baby piles and he thinks they're these ginormous pieces of messes and clutter. But I know what the purpose of that pile is. I know what's happening in it. So to me, it's not a mess. It is not clutter. But to someone from the outside, it's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I tease him all the time because if he leaves something behind, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just like three pieces of paper. But I
Right.
know that I know and respect my system and his system, so then we can have fun with it when we want to hold each other accountable.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's when we live together, that's the important part, that you find a way to work together and acknowledge each other's systems and habits and create an additional level of peace in the
Yes.
home and
That's
office. It
Yeah.
works for
And that's
coworkers too.
kind of a really good segue into our part two, which is like why what people have tried hasn't worked. And the first thing is because these hacks are one size fits all. And not only are we not all the same as other people who are organizing, but the other people that we live with are not the same. So we might come up with some hack. We're going to do it this way, but our partner's not going to do it that way.
Right.
And so, what in your experience have people tried, all
Mhm.
these hacks, like some maybe talk about a couple common ones and why they actually haven't worked and won't work.
Well, one hack that I saw recently was the young lady hung her measuring cups and her measuring spoons inside her cupboard. Beautiful idea. They're all organized. What could go wrong with that? Well, her cupboards themselves were very full. And when you close the cupboard, it could knock over the olive oil, and now you've got a bigger mess. I'd rather scrounge around in a drawer to find the right measuring cup than have to clean up after spilled olive oil. So that's something that these hacks do work for some people, but as you said, the one size fits all isn't applicable. And it's about finding what does work for us and releasing the guilt that a
Mm.
hack may not work for you. And then there's the other, fold your t-shirts, like file your t-shirts. So fold them 8 times and put them in a drawer. So if you need to file your t-shirts, you might have too many. That's
Ooh,
where
I love that.
that's where you might, if you need to alphabetize your graphic tees, you might have too many.
Right,
Now,
right.
t-shirts and books are very delicate subjects for some people. So for those who can look at thinking more open-minded about the quantity of t-shirts or books that they have, that's when you can lighten the load and create space for more. And when I say create space for more, I don't mean more stuff necessarily. I mean more life. I mean, if you can cut down the amount of clutter that you need to dust, how much time are you saving?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know a whole lot of people who love to dust. So the less we have, the happier we're just going to be. I mean, I'd rather just do a quick sweep over a flat surface and not worry about knocking over any tchotchkes and maintain, and have my house available for guests on a whim
Right.
than to have a bunch of tchotchkes around and have to worry about the dust and the the little cobwebs and the cat hair that
Yeah.
gets caught in them. And
Yeah. Another thing I'd like to bring up about these hacks is they're all about one little thing. Do this with your measuring cups. Do that with your spices. Do this with your drawer. We have thousands of things in our houses. We would need thousands of hacks if we're going to go the hack way. And
right.
and probably some of them interfere with each other or contradict each other. Um,
Hmm.
so so these hacks are all nice when we're fooling ourselves into thinking we're going to get organized via a hack. We are not. That's going to help with one tiny little thing. Yes, if you always lose your keys and you put a little hook right by your door and you remember to put your keys there all the time, but that's not really a hack. What that is a system, right?
Exactly. Because I'll talk to people, it's like, what do you typically have in your hands when you're walking in the door that your keys don't go back where they belong, where you think they truly belong? And so we want to build systems based on how you think and how you operate, because we're all different.
Exactly, exactly. So now we're into part three of our talk, what you can do right now. And one of the things, and I intuitively did this, and I remember you mentioned it, but I just was doing this, and it worked beautifully. Was pluck the garbage, right?
Hmm.
If you think you're gonna go through your whole closet all at one time, and that's not happening, right? You
Right.
can just pluck the garbage. I had a room in my basement that was like the way station. I just kept putting things there when I would surface clean, right? Like, oh, let's put, oh,
Hmm.
here's all the tax documents. Let's put those in a bag. I put them in that room in that basement. And before I knew it, I'm trying to walk around things just to get to the laundry because there was just, and I'd look every time I went down there, I'd be like, oh, you know? And so
Hmm.
I decided one day, like going through all those papers, what do I have to shred? What do I have to scan? What do I have to throw away? Whatever like I just was not going to get to it. I'm like, who am I fooling? That's too much. I
Right.
was in that overwhelmed state. So I said, I'm just going to do this one thing. Every time I walk through that room, I'm going to look and see what I know immediately is garbage, right?
Hmm.
Because it's just garbage. It's a pen cap. Whatever it was. And I would
Right.
I would pluck a few things and then go to the laundry, right? Because I was changing laundry out and put it in the garbage by the laundry. Then when I came back out of the laundry room, back through that room, I'd pluck a few more things, bring them up the stairs, and put them in the garbage in the kitchen. So no matter I made a concerted effort over the next month. Every time I walked through that room, I'm going to pluck garbage. I didn't worry about the important papers. I only worried about the garbage. And
Right.
within a month, I had probably 85% of that stuff was cleared out. I'm like, oh my God, 85% of it was garbage.
Right, right. Yeah, it gets all mixed in, and then we don't want to have to stop and look and decide because we want to give it focused attention and we want to do it in hours. And what I realized during what we just went through is virtual organizing actually works because people are taking those little pockets of time to get rid of stuff and to move themselves forward. And that was an amazing thing to witness because, Linda, honestly, I thought you got to bang out 3 to 4 hours to organize. But reality is, no, if you come up with a plan and you institute that plan and set up those reminders so then you follow it, you know, you may be different, but some people it's going to be a gradual thing. And you can get organized in pockets of time, and it's a beautiful thing to experience because every time you do and it's a good positive movement forward, it just lightens you up. And all those little pen caps that you got rid of, they may have just weighed ounces in reality, but the mental weight was probably a lot more than a couple of ounces.
Yes, exactly. And it's much more doable. I know I'm not going to spend 3 hours in that closet. But
Mm,
if there was a little reminder and you said, Linda, set a timer for 5 minutes and just go pluck the garbage out of that closet.
yep.
I could find garbage in 5 minutes. And then I feel like, oh, it's an accomplishment. I didn't have to do the whole
Right.
closet because I got rid of the garbage. Well, that's very lightening, right? So that's really beautiful. The
And you probably cleared the clutter. So then when you looked at the important papers, it was easier to organize them and maintain them.
There was because there was less to look at, less to deal with.
Right.
Yeah, less to
Right.
deal with. Absolutely. Um,
That's a beautiful thing.
another thing is you talked to me about we do things in the wrong order when we go to tackle our house, our overwhelm of our house, right? What do most of us do? I'm like, oh, the kitchen counter, I'm going to start right here, like in the drop zone, right? I'm going to clean up the drop zone. And of course, 20 minutes later, someone else drops something on it and it's the drop zone again. Like, right? But it keeps starting there. And so I never move into another spot because I'm always
Right.
doing the same place. So what are we doing wrong with that?
You're starting in the hot spot. If we go deep into the basement and the garages and wherever you've got stuff that you haven't looked at in forever, go as deep as you can, bypass all the hot spots. Get there, pull the stuff out, and really look and see if you need it. Is it still serving you? Did you forget that you had it and then you replaced it? So you've got 5 hammers and you still have a hammer in your kitchen that's easier to reach. And it can get a little tricky with making those decisions, but that's a great place to start because chances are you haven't seen that stuff in a long time and you're going to know instinctively whether you're going to keep it or whether you can let it go or if we can put it in a better home. So stuff that's that deep doesn't usually need a better home. It's
Right.
usually keep or let go. Um, and then sort of work our way up. So I like to go in the least active spots first, and then the medium active spots. So the junk drawers, our our linen closets, things that are more active, and then hit the hot spots. And by doing that, you create space. So then the hot spots don't need to happen anymore. So if your
Ah,
laundry never gets put away, there's a really good chance that your closets or your drawers are too full. Because when laundry's done, I know how we all love doing laundry. No one passes up the opportunity to put laundry away. I know. So we want it to be as smooth and as simple as possible. And once those things are hung, we want boom, hang. Once the towels are folded, we want them to go right on the shelf. We don't want to have to worry about kind of cramming them in and making things fit. We want their homes to be clear and easy to
so there's
put
really
to.
two reasons to switch this order with the go deep. The one is the physical space reason, because now as you're dealing with these other things, that you have a place to put them
Mm-hmm.
because you've cleared out the deep spaces. But two is, you mentioned to me about when you make decisions on things that have been like tucked away for a long time, when you make the decisions on those, you mentioned that you're creating some new neural pathways. And if you can make decisions about those big things that you've been holding on to, right? Now you feel like a champ. Now the decisions for
Mm-hmm.
what do I keep in this junk drawer, that seems like no, I can make those decisions, no problem.
Right.
So those are two
Right.
reasons to do that. So I know it is counterintuitive because when we want an organized home, what we see immediately is what we want to start with, but then we never get past that, never ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this where you go deep, but again with what you said previously, with your like 5 minutes, you can spend a couple minutes just here. You know, it doesn't have to be a 4 hour thing. You can do it a
Right.
little at a time. But the way I had done it is I just said every time I walk through that room, I'm picking up a piece of garbage, and I
Right.
might say every time I walk through, I moved, so I really got to pluck what I wanted, which was beautiful because I did not pluck the garbage. And then the garbage, got left at the old place. I'm cleaning that out now to sell it, but that's another story. Um, it's all garbage as far as I'm concerned now, as I plucked what I wanted
Because you lived without it. So now that's your
for a
super deep
year.
space.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I going through the kitchen stuff there and I'm like, do I need another colander? No, I've been living without a second colander for a whole year. I'm fine. I'm good. Yeah, I get that one's
Mm-hmm.
bigger, but I haven't needed it. I've been fine,
Right.
you know. So, so that has been a beautiful thing. So, um, okay, and then the last thing just to mention before I want you to give us your 4 tenets of organizing, which are fabulous. The last thing is that um, I remember I got this email from my friend and it was hilarious. And we all, because we're all laughing. We're like, yes, we all do this, right? Like, you're in the kitchen and you have to go to the bathroom. You go to the bathroom, then you notice, oh, these towels are dirty, and you change out the towels, and then you pick that towel up, and then you bring that into the laundry room where you recognize, oh my God, this is yesterday's laundry. I got to run this load again. And then as you do that, and you walk, and you trip over something else, and you're like, oh my God, I got to clean this hot spot off. And before you know it, you don't even remember. You probably didn't even go to the bathroom if that's the thing you had to do. It's like an hour later, you're like, I didn't even go to the bathroom. I just got lost in all this stuff. And people think they have like ADD, but they don't. Correct?
Not a doctor, but chances are they're just not following a system. So if we have a system for our laundry, we don't forget that it got left in the washer and now we have to rewash it. Now, we are human. Sometimes it happens. I actually had to do that yesterday, but I don't have to do it on a regular basis. I think yesterday was the first time, and I don't know, a year that I've had to rewash something because it got left in the washer. And that's such a common thing. So if it happens, you're not allowed to beat yourself up over it. Just stop, let's create a system, and then your house runs smoothly. Like, instead, I live in a 2-story house. If I'm in the kitchen and something needs to come up to my office, it gets put on the banister. I'm not walking all the way upstairs because my system is whatever little, or when I bring groceries in, the toilet paper goes on the stairs. But the next time I walk by it, it's coming up.
Right.
So I'm not like stopping and distracting myself from doing frivolous tasks that have to get done. I'm operating in a systematic way that is efficient and easy, and we can all do that without hacks.
Yes. And when you have systems for how you live, you don't trip over all those undone things. They're not there. So now
Right.
when like I have systems now, when I go to put my laundry away, put the towels away, if that closet's already organized, I know exactly where those towels go, and I don't trip
Mhm.
over anything in the bedroom on the way. Nothing. I know
Nice.
exactly. I got to go through the bedroom. There's like, because I have systems. So
Mm.
it's a beautiful thing when you have systems. And those happen once you have the space for everything that you need and that you value. So let's go into your 4 tenets of organizing. And then I know there's something coming up that's really exciting that I want to tell
Yes.
everybody about.
Okay. Perfect. So, 4 tenets of organizing. First one, minimum plus one. This is applicable to things that you use multiples of. So, I like to pick on laundry because it's just easy. If you have 6 black shirts, how many do you really need? And maybe you decide, oh, I really need 2. These 2 will serve the purpose for the pants that I want to wear them with. So your minimum may be 2, but we want to add that plus one because we want to add a little bit of frivolity in our life. So maybe you pull in an extra fun black shirt, and we don't want to live under a sense of lack. We want
Right.
to feel that we have enough. So for me, the minimalist lifestyle, beautiful concept, but throw in the plus one. Give yourself a little bit of something. In Louisiana, they call that lagniappe, little something extra.
Right. We like to
'Cause-
have some options, and
right.
we don't want to feel like we're being limited. So we want to have some options. But what happens when we have 6 black shirts, we have too many options.
Hmm.
We have too
And
many
that's
options.
no, 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 no. Yes,
And
maybe.
yeah, that's a known paralyzer is too many options.
Mm.
So if minimum is 2, I like the plus one because it's really easy to choose between 3 things. I can do that.
Right. And plus one is totally relative. The
Right.
one is relative to your minimum. So if you need
Right.
7, bump it up to 10. Everything's going to be okay.
Right, right, exactly. So I know what you're saying. So it's not the minimum; it's your minimum individually. Yeah,
Exact, because my minimum is going to be different from your minimum.
right, right.
And when we dig deep and really look and contemplate on what our minimum is, then we have an acknowledgement of who we are and what we truly need,
Hmm.
which sort of takes me to the second tenet,
Yes.
which is keep what serves you. And that's in regard to things that we're not using on a regular basis, like clothes It's about those sentimental items. Um, School's coming, depending on when you're watching it. If you're watching it live soon, when school rolls around, it's so interesting to me the number of homes that I go into to get them prepared for the new school year, and they still have everything from the previous school year. So all those pieces of paper and artwork, they can all be sentimental, but if you can get it down to the one that represents everything that happened in that school year, one or two that represents, then those pieces of artwork or whatever, they serve you as a reminder of those sweet memories when your child was in that grade.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of segues into finding your truth, which is also like not trying to follow these hacks and such. It's creating your own system that works for you. I'm totally cool with having fresh, toilet paper on the stairs for an extra 30 minutes because that's part of my system. That's my truth. I am not stopping and running it up the stairs. So as you allow yourself to be yourself and really play with things, then you can really hone in an amazing system for yourself.
Mm. Yeah. I love, can I just jump in on that real quick? The
Yeah.
find your truth. In my experience as a coach, um, when you wrap what you're doing and how you're doing it around who you are, success and happiness will meet you there. So
Mhm.
to discover who you are and let go of who you're not, or who you thought you were,
Right.
who you're trying to be. Don't try to be, you know, like have this picture perfect home if that's just not you. We have to know what's important to us. What do we value? So if you know your top 5 non-negotiables of what you totally value, now you're starting to really get to know yourself. And then
Mhm.
once you start to really get to know yourself, your natural tendencies, how you work, how you play, how you clean, how you naturally would organize when you do get to it. When you feel those motivations, what was happening? When you really get to know yourself, that's then the next thing to do is give yourself permission to be yourself and not try to be different
Yes.
because you can't, it's not going to stick. It's
Right.
just going to contort you. So,
Right.
being who you are and loving who that is and giving yourself permission, like, this is how I roll and this
Hmm.
is good. This is natural
Hmm.
for me because it's so much easier to live within your natural tendencies. And you can create systems, what you are saying, within your natural tendencies. What do you naturally do? So
Right.
finding your truth is really about finding who you are, loving who you are, giving yourself permission to be who you are, and letting go of all the rest and
Let
all
it go.
those hacks that isn't who you are. So,
Right.
all right, excellent.
Exactly.
All right, what's the fourth tenet of organizing?
The fourth one is give with a joyful heart. So when we're donating, don't do it out of angst or, oh, I have to get rid of this, or, you know, don't do it from like the perspective of pushing it out of your life. Do it from the perspective of truly giving. And that was the definition when I first wrote that tenet. But what I realized is it morphed into now, once we have the first three accomplished and we're organized, we can give with a joyful heart. We can give our time. We can give our energy because everything is settled in our home, and it frees up that mental space that you talked about earlier, where we can just go and live. If you're an extrovert and you want to go kayaking every weekend, you're going to have that time. If you're an introvert and you want to hang out at the house and watch that, what was it, like the Hallmark Channel or something? If that's your jam, then doing it without guilt and doing it joyfully because that's what you need. And that's how you rock and roll because you're living your truth.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
everything's
beautiful.
settled at the house. And now you can just live your truth and give with a joyful heart.
Yes. I really love everything that you've shared with us today,
Oh, thank
because in what I do, is the people that I work with are and kind of people and more kind of people. So when it's like I'm and this and that and that, so are all the people I work with. They are multifaceted, multi-passionate people.
Mhm.
And they love to grow and learn on purpose. So they want and then they want more life in their life, right? More
Right.
capacity, more space, more balance, so they can get all their gifts out to the world. And so,
Mhm.
there's like three areas that we work through. The first is discovery, and that has to do with discovering who you are and how you roll and what's important to you, right? So you're really discovering your gifts and
Mhm.
in light of who you are, right? So like, ooh, what is my purpose? What is my passion? Ooh, these are my gifts, right? And then the second piece is about lightening your load. And this is where this falls in. Lightening your load. If we know we have something big and important to give to the world, but we're feeling this overwhelm, like, well, as soon as I lighten up, then I'll be able to do it. You're never going to get there if you don't lighten up. So how do we lighten up? We lighten up two ways, which we kind of mentioned at the beginning. One is in our physical space, which is what we've been talking about all, during this broadcast, is we're lightening our physical space because then it helps lighten our mental load. And then
Mhm.
when we also let go of our the things that aren't serving us, the thought patterns, etc., that aren't serving us, now we don't feel the need to keep so much stuff because the meaning we're placing on it is not really the true meaning of it. Um, right? If I get rid of grandma's cuckoo clock, I'm getting rid of grandma. Not true.
Right. No, not
Right?
true.
Not true. But that's where our brain goes until we start to question what am I really thinking about? What am I holding on to, right? And when we understand what we're really holding on to, then we can decide if it's truly worth holding on to or not, as long as it's not in disguise. You can't be disguised as something else.
Mm.
That's not going to work.
Right.
So
Right.
to make room, when we get rid of what was, we make room for what's next. And when we get rid of the heaviness in our minds, when we get rid of the ought tos and the shoulds and the what do I have to do to prove my significance or prove that I care? Oh, I better keep this or else it means I don't care about grandma, right? If we get when we get
Right.
rid of those beliefs systems that are not serving us, then we are light. And when we are light, we can give our gifts to the world. We can be better partners, better sisters, better, parents, better peers, better workers, better, we can just get those gifts out into the world when we make the space to be able to focus on them because we have the capacity. And you also need to
Mhm.
make that space in order to have balance. We do not have balance if there's always something weighing on us. We're just shifting and longing. We're shifting to work over here and then longing for that over there. We shift over here and then we long for that. So we're
Right.
always in this shifting and longing. So it's hugely important to make this space so that we can have balance, so we can balance our relationships, balance ourselves internally, what's important to us, and we're giving ourselves what we need, balance what we do for others, balance the time we spend and the capacity we have to nurture the things that we love and get those gifts out to the world.
Right.
So,
Right. And it creates space for us to take care of ourselves too.
yes,
People
exactly.
eat, people eat healthier when you're organized in your kitchen. You know that you can go home and you can make a quick, healthy meal, or just a homemade meal is a blessing. And then, you're not on the run. You have time to take care of your physical health. You
Mm-hmm.
have time you remember to take your vitamins because your system's all set up. So
Right,
taking care of ourselves is so important and a common benefit of being organized.
right. Because then we can be our best selves for everything else that's important to us. So
Mhm.
beautiful. Now, I know you have something cool coming up that is so worthwhile. And it is a workshop, and it's an online workshop.
Yep,
So,
we're doing an online workshop, and I will deliver to you a workbook so we can document. And like as we referenced earlier, all the decisions that we make, when I walk with a client into a space, I guide them through making those decisions. And this workbook is kind of like me guiding you through those decisions without you having to be in the space because that's overwhelming and you're by yourself. And so
right.
you'll make those decisions at the workshop, then you go into the space and you do your clearing and you live happily ever after. because that's how it works, right?
I love that because, like, as I go into a space and I see how much stuff it is, I intuitively know I have to make a decision on all of the 10,000 things in this space. And that
Right.
feels overwhelming. So, this workshop will help to pre make these decisions. So then when you see what's what, you already know, oh, that falls in this category, this falls in that category.
Hmm.
Ooh, that sounds so
Exactly.
awesome. What's the name of this workshop?
It is the Bright Way to Organize, and you can register for it on my website, which is brightorganizing.com. And there's a page for workshops. So if you happen to miss this one, there's going to be a link there to sign up for my newsletter. So then you can find out the next ones that are coming up.
Yeah,
And I'm not
beautiful.
on all the socials, just some of the socials, but those links are on my website too.
Beautiful. And I'll put all that into the description of this broadcast. So
Oh, thank you.
thank you. Oh, so much. So once again, I'm Linda Bucher, helping you to lighten your load, unleash that bigness inside of you, and make an impact while living a balanced, rewarding life. And I'd like to thank Aly Luccari of Bright Organizing Solutions, as well as you, our audience, for sharing your
Mhm.
time with us today. So please subscribe and remember to check the description where you'll find our contact information and the free tools and resources that we're gifting you. And until next time, make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.